3 years she waited. 3 years she cried alone. Last night she'd begged God for strength to forget him forever. But God had a different answer waiting at her door.
Subscribe to Wild Sky Stories' new emotional tales every day.
The morning sun painted the Arizona sky in shades of gold and crimson. As Evangeline Harper stood at her kitchen window, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee. 3 years had passed since Josiah Mitchell rode away from Cedar Springs, and still her heart remembered every detail of his face. The way his dark eyes softened when he looked at her, the gentle curve of his smile, the sound of his voice promising he would return. She had believed him with every fiber of her being. She had waded through summer storms and winter snows. She had watched the road leading into town until her eyes burned with unshed tears. But Josiah never came back. No letter arrived explaining his absence. No message reached her through passing travelers. He had simply vanished like morning mist beneath the desert sun. Evangeline set down her cup and walked to the small wooden chest beside her bed. Inside lay a single pressed wildflower, now faded to pale yellow, and a simple silver band, the ring Josiah had given her the night before he left. He had placed it on her finger with trembling hands and whispered words she still heard in her dreams. He had promised to return within 6 months. He had promised to make her his wife. He had promised to make her his wife. He had promised that nothing in this world could keep him from coming back to her. Those promises had become her greatest torment. Her father, Samuel Harper, had urged her to move forward with her life. Her younger sister, Patience, had introduced her to respectable men from neighboring towns. The local preacher, a kind widower named Thomas Gray, had expressed genuine interest in courting her. But Evangeline could not bring herself to accept any of their attentions. Her heart remained stubbornly attached to a man who had disappeared without explanation. Last night, kneeling beside her bed, with tears streaming down her cheeks, Evangeline had offered a desperate prayer. She had begged God for strength to forget Josiah Mitchell. She had pleaded for the ability to release his memory and embrace a future without him. She had prayed until her knees ached and her voice grew hoarse, asking for peace in her wounded heart. This morning, as she prepared to open her small seamstress shop on Main Street, Evangeline felt no different. The ache remained, the memories persisted. Perhaps healing would come gradually, she told herself. Perhaps God would answer her prayer in his own time. The bell above her shop door chimed as her first customer of the day entered. Martha Wilson, the mayor's wife, needed alterations on her Sunday dress. Evangeline focused on her work, measuring and pinning and marking the fabric with careful precision. Keeping busy had become her survival strategy. When her hands were occupied, her mind had less opportunity to wander toward painful memories. The morning passed in a blur of fabric and thread. Around midday, Patience burst through the shop door with her characteristic energy. Her bonnet sat crooked on her auburn hair, and her cheeks were flushed with excitement. "Evangeline, you will never believe what is happening at the train depot. Patience, please calm yourself. What has gotten you so worked up?" A man arrived on the noon train. He has been asking questions all over town. He is looking for someone named Evangeline Harper. The needle slipped from Evangeline's suddenly numb fingers. Her heart began pounding against her ribs with such force that she felt certain her sister could hear it. "Who is this man? What does he look like?" "I did not see him clearly. I only heard the commotion and Mrs. Peterson telling everyone that a stranger was asking about you." "Evangeline, what if it is trouble? What if someone is coming to collect a debt or deliver bad news?" Evangeline could barely breathe. 1,000 possibilities raced through her mind, but only one face appeared in her imagination. It could not be Josiah. After 3 years of silence, after countless nights of weeping and praying, he would not simply appear on a train, seeking her name. God would not answer her prayer for strength to forget by sending back the very man she was trying to release. Would he? The shop door opened again, and Evangeline looked up from her workbench. Time seemed to stop. Standing in the doorway, thinner than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes and silver threading through his dark hair, stood Josiah Mitchell. Patience gasped. Hatchins gasped. Evangeline rose slowly from her chair, her legs threatening to give way beneath her. Legs voice cracked on her name. Those dark eyes she remembered so vividly were filled with tears. Josiah. The word escaped her lips as barely more than a whisper. Patience looked between them with growing understanding. I will give you privacy. I will be at Father's store if you need me. She slipped past Josiah and out the door, closing it gently behind her. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Evangeline studied his face, searching for answers in the familiar features now marked by hardship. She could not imagine. He looked older than 30. 2 years should warrant. He looked worn. He looked like a man who had traveled through darkness to reach this moment. You left. The words came out harder than she intended. You promised to return in 6 months, and you left. 3 years, Josiah. 3 years without a single word. I know. His voice broke completely. Evangeline, I know what I did. I know what you must have endured. If you send me away right now, I will understand. I will deserve it. But please, please let me explain. Part of her wanted to refuse. Part of her wanted to protect the fragile walls she had built around her wounded heart. But a deeper part, the part that had kept his ring in a wooden chest beside her bed for 3 years, needed to understand. Josiah took a shaky breath. When I left Cedar Springs, I was traveling to California to finalize the sale of my late uncle's property. You remember this. I told you the journey would take 2 months at most, and then I would return with enough money to build us a home. I remember everything you told me. 2 weeks into my journey, I became severely ill. A fever took hold of me so fiercely that I lost consciousness on the trail. A family of settlers found me and brought me to their camp. For 3 weeks I hovered between life and death. They did not know my name. They did not know where I came from. When I finally recovered enough to speak, I had lost nearly a month of time. Evangeline remained silent, her arms crossed protectively over her chest. I continued to California. Weak but determined, I completed the property sale and prepared to return to you. But the night before my departure, the hotel where I was staying caught fire. I survived, but I was badly injured. My legs were burned. The doctors told me I might never walk properly. Again, his voice grew even more strained. As he continued, I spent 8 months in recovery. 8 months learning to walk again, while every day I thought of you waiting here, not knowing if I was alive or dead. I tried to send letters, Evangeline. I wrote to you dozens of times, but later, I discovered that the man I entrusted with posting them had simply kept my money and discarded the letters. You could have found another way to contact me, and could have. You are right, but as the months passed, and then the years, I became convinced that you would have moved on. I told Morn, yes, you were better off without a crippled man, with nothing to offer. I convinced myself that sending word would only reopen wounds that had surely healed. My wounds never healed, Josiah. The admission hung between them like a physical presence. Then why did you not come back sooner? Why wait 3 years? Josiah's tears fell freely now. Fear, shame, pride, every weakness a man can possess. I returned to the territory 6 months ago, working up the courage to face you. I have been in Tucson, earning money, building my strength, trying to become someone worthy of approaching you again. Every Sunday, I attended services and prayed for guidance. Every night I dreamed of your face. I prayed last night. Evangeline's voice trembled. I prayed for the strength to forget you. I begged God to help me release your memory and move forward with my life. Josiah's expression crumpled with fresh pain. Then, I should go, if that is what you need. If forgetting me is the peace you are seeking, I will not stand in the way of your answered prayer. He turned toward the door, and in that moment, Evangeline understood something profound. She had prayed for strength. God had not given her the strength to forget. He had given her something infinitely better. He had given her the man she loved, and the truth she needed to understand his absence. Josiah, wait. He stopped, his hand on the door handle, his back still turned to her. I did not receive strength to forget you. Perhaps that was never the answer God intended to give. Slowly, Josiah turned to face her. These 3 years have been agony. Evangeline continued. I have cried more tears than I thought my body could produce. I have questioned everything about my judgment and my heart. I have wondered if the love I felt was even real, or just a foolish dream I invented to comfort myself. It was real. What we shared was the most genuine thing I have ever experienced. Then why did you not believe I would wait for you? Why did you assume I would prefer a stranger's affection to truth from the man I loved? Because I was a fool, because suffering twisted my thinking until I could not separate fear from reality. Because every day I told myself one more lie to justify my cowardice. Evangeline stepped closer to him, close enough to see the scars on his hands she had not noticed before, close enough to observe the slight unevenness in his stance that revealed the lasting damage from the fire. Show me. Show you what? The scars you believe make you unworthy. Josiah hesitated, shame flooding his features, but something in Evangeline's steady gaze gave him courage. Slowly, he lifted the hem of his trouser legs to reveal the mottled, scarred skin that covered both legs from ankle to knee. The flesh was discolored and tight, evidence of burns that must have caused unimaginable pain. Evangeline knelt before him, and Josiah flinched as if expecting rejection. Instead, she gently touched the scarred skin, her fingers tracing the marks of his suffering with infinite tenderness. You endured this alone. You healed from this alone. You believed you had to be perfect before you could return to me. I believed you deserved someone whole. I deserved the man who promised to marry me. Whole or broken, scarred or smooth, healthy or struggling. I deserved the truth, Josiah. I deserved the truth to stand beside you through hardship. She rose to her feet, her eyes meeting his. I still have your ring. A sob escaped Josiah's throat. You kept it, in a wooden chest beside my bed. I could not bring myself to remove it. Even when I tried to pray you out of my heart, something in me refused to let go. No matter how much it hurt to hold on. No matter how much it hurt to hold on. Nah. I am so sorry. Those words cannot possibly be enough, but they are all I have. I am sorry for leaving you in uncertainty. I am sorry for assuming I knew what was best for your heart. I am sorry for every night you cried and every morning you woke still waiting. I believe you. I believe your story. And I believe your story. And I believe your regret. Does that mean you might consider forgiving me? Forgiveness is not something I have to consider. I forgave you before I understood why you stayed away. The question now is different. What question? Whether we can rebuild what we lost. Whether 3 years of pain can become foundation for something stronger. Josiah reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small velvet pouch. From it, he produced a simple gold wedding band, worn and scratched from years of being carried close to his heart. I bought this in California with money from my uncle's property. I have carried it every day since, waiting for the moment when I would have courage to return it to its intended purpose. Evangeline Harper, I am not the man who left Cedar Springs 3 years ago. I am older, scarred, humbled, and far less certain of my own strength. But I love you with everything that remains of my heart. If you will have me, not as the promise I once made, but as the flawed reality standing before you, I will spend every remaining day of my life proving that your faith was not misplaced. Evangeline felt tears streaming down her own cheeks now. She thought of her prayer from the previous night, asking for strength to forget. She thought of all the ways God could have answered that prayer. He could have sent peace that erased her memories. He could have sent a new love to replace the old. He could have simply dulled the ache until it became bearable. Instead, he had sent Josiah back. He had answered her prayer with a reminder that sometimes the strength we need is not the strength to forget, but the strength to forgive, to understand, and to begin again. "I will need time," she said softly. "We cannot simply resume where we left off. Too much has changed. I will wait. However long you need, and you must never again decide what is best for my heart without consulting me. If we face hardship, we face it together. If you are struggling, you tell me. No more noble suffering in silence. I promise. On my life, I promise." Then Evangeline extended her hand, and Josiah took it gently in his own. His touch was familiar, yet different. The hands of a man who had worked and suffered and grown. She felt the calluses on his palms, the trembling in his fingers, the warmth that spread from his skin to hers. "My sister will be waiting to interrogate you. My sister will be waiting to interrogate you. My father will have opinions. The whole town has watched me grieve for 3 years, and they will not welcome you easily. I will face them all. I will answer every question and accept every judgment. Then let us begin. Not with wedding plans or romantic promises, simply with today. Simply with today. Simply with two people who lost each other finding their way back." Josiah raised her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss against her fingers. "Today is more than I dared to hope for. Today is everything." Outside the seamstress shop, the sun had reached its highest point in the Arizona sky. The streets of Cedar Springs bustled with ordinary life, people going about their daily business unaware of the quiet miracle unfolding behind a simple shop door. Evangeline thought of the verse from Jeremiah that her mother had often quoted before her passing, about plans for welfare and not for evil, for a future and a hope. She had prayed for strength to forget. God had sent her something far better. He had sent her the courage to remember, the grace to forgive, and the love she had never truly lost. As she stepped out into the sunlight with Josiah at her side, facing an uncertain future with uncertain hearts. Facing an uncertain hearts, Evangeline understood that some prayers are answered in ways we cannot imagine until we cannot imagine, until we see them unfolding before us. And sometimes, the answer to letting go is holding on tighter than ever before.